Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our March Nonprofit Connection call. We are going to go ahead and get started a couple minutes after 2. But thank you so much for joining early. We appreciate you. But we'll go ahead and get started in just a couple minutes. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna just do one more minute because I see there's the numbers growing in terms of participants. So we will go ahead and get started in just a minute or two. But just want to remind folks, please feel free to share your name, organization in the chat box. And as a reminder, you can turn on the closed captioning option at the bottom right to your screen. And you should see an option there just so that they can auto-populate. If you have any questions, let us know in the chat box, but please feel free to keep introducing yourself. We'll go ahead and get started in 1 minute. All right. Well, happy March for folks joining us today. Thank you so much. We have a packed agenda, but hopefully today we'll have some time for you all to also share information and all of the exciting things that you're doing for our community. As a reminder, you can enable closed captioning to the bottom right of your screen. Feel free to continue just introducing yourself in the chat. But I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our CEO, Sam Rudd, to kick us off for today.
Thank you, Henry. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great week. I wanted to be able to share, as many of you know, in our special session call a couple of weeks ago, United Way Southern Nevada was asked to present information regarding the impact of the federal changes to the nonprofit sector. And many of you participated in a survey that we put out in a very short time, and we so much appreciate all of your support and sharing, as we were able to convey some really important information to a joint session with both the Assembly and Senate of the Department of Health and Human Services. We are going to be sharing the link with you that included a total of 6 presenters. The focus of that presentation was highly focused on Medicaid, but we also were able to share the impact of the overall federal potential grant freeze and the impact that all of the changes have had on the sector and specifically on the individuals that you all serve. The link that is sent out, it's the total presentation was about almost 3 hours or so, including personal testimonies. Specifically, the portion that I shared starts at the 2-hour and 7-minute mark, which Henry just sent out to you all. I'm just going to highlight a couple of pages because I know some of you already saw that presentation, but just so that you had an opportunity to see what we gathered from all of you, really. And this was a joint effort. We were presenting information on behalf of the sector and really appreciate everyone's support. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can see a piece of what was provided or shared with the session, and then we will be sending this out along with the link in the notes so that you all have access to this. So first of all, can a couple people just indicate that if you can see my screen okay?
We can.
I think we're good. Awesome. So just real quick, first and foremost, the day after the freeze was announced, we held a meeting immediately to address this as a sector. We had almost 350 people join that call. Many of you were participating in that. And we asked for an initial survey at that time, and we were able to get about 28 responses from that initial survey, which was very helpful. But we quickly found out in subsequent meetings that some were concerned about sharing the data, even though we did make it a possibility to be anonymous. That wasn't very clearly communicated. And so we did a second survey that clarified a little bit more information that we were being asked to provide. And within a very short period of time, you all provided 160 responses. So we were able to get a great wealth of information from that. Every single county in our state was represented. And from the self-reported information, it included about $214 million in federal programs. This includes both direct or pass-through. And all of these programs are impacting over 100,000 Nevadans, and that's a low estimate. And so thank you again. We could not have done this without you. This is a joint effort, and we really want to help represent the sector as a whole in these conversations. You can also see the constituencies that were most impacted. I'll just highlight the top 3 were children, parents, and seniors and people with disability. And so this was information, again, that was included in the presentation. We also showed the various funding sources, and one of the comments that came out of the presentation was that there was a kind of a surprise as to how many other departments and agencies are providing the source of funding, which is really helpful because with this information, we can easily slice and dice this and help our legislative partners with making real-time critical decisions once we know if there will be cuts or not to address these issues. We did recognize from the presentation, and again, remember, this is from the 160 responses. You still have the opportunity to respond to the survey, and we will send a link out. We'd actually ask you to if you have not completed it, if you receive a federal grant or a grant through a state pass-through that's a federally funded program, we would really appreciate you filling this out so that we can capture the whole totality and be able to slice and dice the information as things come up and as cut decisions may come out, that we can address that. But from this, about 65% of the reported information are received through state department or municipality, and the largest funder is the Department of Health and Human Services, followed up by the Department of Agriculture and Education. I won't get into too many of these highlights, but just in the immediate days following the memo, 38% of the respondents indicated that they had a temporarily paused or frozen portal. 6% indicated that they've received compliance notices or requests to modify their budgets to align with the president's executive orders or potentially lose funding. And 8% indicated that there was concern about immediate impact to full-time staff. Again, we shared that this is so important because many nonprofits do not have the cash on hand to sustain these prolonged periods of delays in reimbursement. And you are already pre-funding these programs with your own dollars and waiting for reimbursement. And so these changes and pauses, even for a couple of days, has a huge impact on your ability to continue to maintain those services and provide support to the most vulnerable in our community. We sliced the information out a little bit specifically to kind of highlight what areas would be impacted. And you can see that in the blue area, 26% represented housing, which included rent, mortgage, transitional housing, shelter, hotel, motel, food, and utilities. So 26% of the respondents fell into this category. 16% fell into healthcare and education that would have a potential impact on the individual's income or the hard costs that the individual had to pay out if that program was stopped. 33% provided additional supportive services that also would have impact on potential income or hard costs for families if that support was stopped. And then about 25% were supportive services that, while it did not have a direct impact on income or costs, it still was vital services that literally improve lives. And so this was the breakout of the segment of the 160 respondents. We also saw from that when asked, do you anticipate long-term sustainability issues of the funding, and do you think the anticipated the funding was potentially at risk? And under the housing, food, and utilities category, 33% of the respondents indicated yes, and 55% indicated maybe. Under healthcare and education, 58% responded yes, and 19% responded maybe. And then under the supportive services that do have an impact on income and costs, 30% indicated yes, and 51% indicated maybe. And then finally, on the supportive services that did not have an impact on income and costs, 50% indicated yes, and 23% indicated maybe. And so again, these are all unknowns. We were very clear that we did not know exactly what was going to happen, that these were speculations, but that the most important thing we wanted everyone to hear is that these issues were real, and that if these cuts were to occur, people in our community would be negatively impacted by these changes. And so that's the story and the message that we were getting out. When asked for clarity as to why, if they felt that their funds were at risk, where their funding was from, or why that was, 41% indicated yes, and it was due to potential federal funding freeze. 39% indicated yes due to congressional spending cuts, and 20% indicated they did not anticipate an impact. Overall, 54% of the nonprofits reported the freeze could negatively impact full-time employees in the long term, and 80% felt uncertain in the longevity of their federal funding. And obviously, this puts a huge strain on Nevada because we are already ranked very low in acquiring federal funding, and that creates a greater strain on people looking to go after additional federal funds. So in general, the thrust of this, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. The thrust of this was, we're not trying to be alarmist, but we are trying to be realistic on the fact that although the intention of the freeze was not to impact individuals, the reality is that it is. And we do have good news in that everyone has shared that at this point their portals are back up, and we haven't seen or heard any specific people having funds cut. But that doesn't mean that we don't need to be proactive and responsive to these potential concerns and the reviews that are going on. And so our commitment to all of you is to continue to keep you advised, to continue to provide resources and recommendations, and to continue to allow you to help us with sharing the data. I have a couple of other comments, but before I do, I just want to pause because I know I just gave a lot of information. I wanted to see if there were any questions. Okay, a couple of things just to note. We were asked for more clarity on the potential impact to FTE, to nonprofits. Most of you are aware that the nonprofit sector employs about 46,000 employees in the state of Nevada. And that comes from a report in 2023 from Nevada Grant Lab. And the question really was, what's the impact there? The reality is we don't know yet, but we may be coming back to you. Well, we don't always know who filled out the information because it was possibly given anonymously. But we may be coming back to ask for a little bit more clarity on the FTE impact as we go on. We also have been asked to complete potentially providing more stories of impact, individuals that are being impacted by these changes. And so we are going to be creating another survey that allows you to provide just anonymously stories and the demographic of people impacted by the potential changes or the changes that may be occurring. And so that's in general a nutshell of what we were asked to do. We have been approached also by some other opportunities to share similar information in the coming weeks, and we will continue to do that. We've also asked to continue to be part of the conversation in regards to how the legislative body is going to be responding to some of these issues. So I'll open it up for any more questions, or Janet or Henry, if you'd like to add to anything I just shared.
Any questions for Sam or any reactions to the data?
I'll just add one additional thing. Again, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand or unmute. I also wanted to make you aware that United Way of Southern Nevada, and actually United Way as a whole, administers the EFSP program, the Emergency Food and Shelter Program. And many of you help with that, the distribution and management of that. And we were just asked to consider asking individuals to fill out a survey that would go to your Congress members to impress upon the decision makers the importance of restoring critical funding for EFSP. I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat and would just ask you to consider filling this out and being able to help ensure that those critical resources are made available to not only Nevadans but other states. So I'm going to send that now. It looks like there's some questions in the chat here. Let me see. So good question. Are we sharing the data with other United Ways nationwide? That we have not done that yet. We are partnering with United Way of Northern Nevada and Sierra with this, but we will do that. That's a very good question. We haven't gotten to that place yet, so thank you. We haven't specifically heard of anything from other United Ways as of yet. However, I did just get an invite from United Ways of California that I think is pertaining to this issue. So we will get more information and share that with you all as we get it. And then I see the question or the statement, I believe the impact this will have on mental health and substance abuse services are even larger than the surveys show. I absolutely agree with you, Kay, and I will say that this is just a snapshot of information. Again, we have over 620 nonprofits that are operating in our state, and we've received 160 responses. So we need to get more information, capture this information, and be able to continue to tell the story. I think that maybe the rest of the questions have been answered. So we really, really appreciate all of you. I want to reiterate that we are in this together, that we will work together through the duration to ensure that we're responding, that we're addressing these things. And some of the content that's available to you today is another resource that we will continue to make available to you all as we work through these challenging times. AJ, you asked, could we put out a social post for all of us to get the survey out? Certainly can. Our team can take that on. I think the biggest thing is want to make sure that we're getting, I would assume that the survey question itself lends to it being nonprofit individuals filling it out. We don't necessarily want to send it out to everyone, unless you're speaking of the survey on stories. That might be an option, but we'll need to get some control around the content of who's filling it out because it is anonymous, but we can look into that. Henry, I think I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you as to the next segment.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. Continue questions, please feel free to type them in the chat and our team will get to them. But as I'm sure you all know, the state of federal funding is still ongoing. There's so many court orders, so many certification requests that are now coming through to many of the grants that we help administer and help fund the services that we provide. So next I'm going to turn it over to Nevada Grant Lab for some of the best practices and resources that they have developed, specifically as it relates to the diversity, equity, and inclusion certification requests. And there you are, Seth. I was looking for you.
Sorry for that. Hi, everyone. So I'm Seth Lung Sao with Nevada Grant Lab. Like usually you would be my colleague Steve Yarrow Mouse on the call, but they're both today in Carson City, so I'm here as a replacement. But wanted to share briefly about the resource that Nevada Grant Lab has developed in service of really kind of answering some of the questions that are ongoing about the shifting landscape of federal funding, which is kind of our day-to-day job. Henry, I'm not sure if I can share, but let me try. Is it working? Excellent. Perfect. So we do have a one sheet, which you all should get reunited by after this call, covering about, I would say, 7 topics or so. First and foremost is around what's actually going on a federal level. And then like the policies about the DEI, which has been a major topic, which is changing every day in some sense. And then some of the more beyond that, there are sort of more practical what can I do from my vantage point as a nonprofit leader in the local community in preparing my organization to deal with, let's say, cash flow, budgeting, scenario planning? What can I do to advocate? And then actions to build financial sustainability. And finally, some local resources, including this sector call, and some of the partners in the community who can be a resource to you. I would not take too long and run through this because you'll get the links and you'll see them all, but just wanted to pinpoint a few key resources that are crucial for those who have some questions. First, The National Council of Nonprofits, our like national advocacy group, is providing an active monitoring of all executive orders and some agency actions that are affecting nonprofits. They update this list pretty much almost every day. They update as things come out, and like so you will see, like for example, you go into the file, like explanations around what the like executive order is supposed to do, what's the status of litigation around them, and what sectors are more or less impacted. So that's a very useful resource they constantly update. Another is a crowdsourced thing by grant professionals, actually nationally. For those of you who have applied for federal grants or are planning to, you might be wondering, is my grant gone? Is it still going? What's going on? So a whole bunch of grant writers nationwide have gathered together to provide like a really basic but super awesome list of what they see in their day-to-day have been withdrawn from their work. So this list, please do not edit that file unless you have additional information to share. It's been shared widely, but also like they try to manage like so much about traffic there. And then finally, the list of DEI things, like I would point out that the Meltzer Center, which is from NYU, has a lot of resources, explanatory like features and things like that. We listed a few here, but explore them as you find out. I find the messaging strategy super helpful for what we need to know. So those are some of the quick introductions. Happy to answer any questions during this call and after, and be a resource as well. Or feel free to reach out to NatedWay and Grant Lab for any assistance you would like to get. That's that. All right, let me unshare 1 second. There we go.
Thank you so much, Seth. And then do you have the sheet or the link to access the document?
Yes, I will share in the chat and also like share to you afterwards so you can circulate to the group.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. So many great resources that I saw, and just so many good points of guidance also from national partners too. Many of them are actually also navigating the lawsuits and helping just kind of decipher what's going on in the courts to all of us across the country going through these changes. That's great. Any questions for Seth?
I don't have a question for Seth, but just so you know, I indicated that I'd be sending out the link to reach out to your Congress member regarding EFSP. And for some reason, the link is too long for this, so we'll include it in the summary in the email that we send out. Henry, how do people again sign up for our email distributions? If you can put that link in the chat, just 'cause I know there's some questions about the survey going out. We have been sending out that survey link, and that definitely can be forwarded. I think it was AJ's question. So you can register for those through the link that Henry just sent. So we will send a follow-up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Seth, for putting the link in the chat. And then I put the link for the Nonprofit Connection newsletter. So that's uwsn.org/NPC. So that's how you'll get updates from us, and that's how you'll stay engaged with all of the agendas, but also the items that we share specifically to this group. Any other questions?
And I'm sorry, Henry, and I don't have the survey, I mean, the agenda in front of me. Are we going to be talking about the DEI component in this call today?
Yes, so that's what we covered, and some of the resources that Seth provided on that one pager do cover some of that as well. But Sam, I don't know if there's any other specific nuances that you wanted to add as well.
No, I think just as a follow-up to some previous recommendations that have been made in regards to if you receive a certification request to confirm that you're compliant with the administrative's agenda, to know that we have been partnering with Barbara Buckley at the Legal Aid of Southern Nevada, Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada to help support that. It's really important. Her words are, be careful when you do those certifications to ensure that you're not putting yourself in a difficult situation. To reiterate what you do to ensure that there are no discrimination, that no discrimination is happening across the board, that you, especially in your hiring practices, are welcoming of all individuals. And so it's really reinforcing what all nonprofits in essence are likely doing, which is being inclusive of everyone and then considering everyone for jobs, which is helpful. But also just, I know this can be a really difficult time where we're all struggling to say, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to get myself into a bad situation of potentially being targeted as a organization that wouldn't receive funding, or even I don't want to say something that might aggravate or offend a potential donor. And I think my encouragement to you is that one thing that we need to ensure that we do is really not walk in fear, but walk in the fact that we, as just our natural nature as nonprofits, we're here to support individual people in every sector of life. That as we do that work, that we can continue to do that work and not be afraid of doing that work. It's important that we share the story and do it in a nonpartisan way, do it in an inclusive way. But we have a good work that we're doing and we need to keep doing it. So I just want to encourage everyone to realize that you're not going to please everyone. I think you can have honest conversations with your potential donors to see what their sense is of the federal landscape and the changes. And then based on their passions and their perspectives, you can respond accordingly and show how you and your organization are here to meet the most vulnerable needs of our community. So again, practical sense, but just want to encourage us all that it's important that now is not the time to stop the work we are doing. Obviously, there's important business decisions we need to make every day, and we can't be unwise with those, but just want to encourage everyone to not walk in fear of that causes you to just pause and do nothing. We need to start the process. We need to share the impact and be honest with what's happening. Again, you all have to make those decisions in your respective organizations and be honorable of your board members and various decision makers, but just wanted to encourage everyone with that.
Thank you, Sam. And yes, and then of course, we'll continue to share resources also on our website, uwsn.org/federal updates. So you can also go there too, and all these resources that we're sharing and all the links will also live there too. So don't feel overwhelmed that you have to capture everything today. We'll make sure that that's all included on the website as well. Well, if folks continue to have questions, please feel free to place them in the chat. Our team will answer them, or again, we're in community, so folks, if you have insight too, feel free to take a look at some of the conversations that are happening in the chat. But we are now going to move into my favorite topic. What's going on at the state legislature? So we are now in officially we've just crossed the first month out of 4. Very excited to share a nice handy document for folks to track nonprofit specific legislation throughout the session that'll be regularly updated by me. Share a little bit about Nonprofit Day that's going to happen on March 19th. And then just answer any questions that folks might have, and then share updates over the next 2 weeks, what we can expect in terms of legislation that'll impact the nonprofit sector. So I'm gonna go ahead and paste a link in the chat. So this is our nonprofit bill tracker. This is yours, right? This document is for the sector. I am regularly keeping track of legislation that could impact not issue specific programs that people run or specific sectors within our nonprofit community, but pieces of legislation that can impact nonprofits as a whole, right? The way that we operate, our financial administration, the way that we access grants, the way that we apply for tax exemption, all of those wonderful bills will live on this document. So bookmark it, highlight it. This is in our Slack channel that I'll also put a link to in just a moment. But here you'll find links and updates on when bills are being heard, who's sponsoring them. All right, so who's leading the charge on a specific issue, what the bill does, or a really brief overview of what the bill is doing, and then just the last action. So whether the bill has been heard in committee, whether it's been introduced, whether it's still in the drafting stages, which hopefully these should move out of in the next couple of weeks. But this is really where we will just share updates regularly on how legislation is moving. But it also is a good way if you see a piece of legislation that you're interested in or that you know would benefit your organization or your community. This is also a good place to reach out to the sponsor, to reach out to see when the bill will be scheduled for hearing, how to testify in support or provide public comment. This document will help guide you through that. And so please bookmark it. We'll be regularly sharing this, especially because some of our legislation that we're carrying on behalf of the sector is on this list too. But just wanted to provide this overview so that folks have it for the next couple of months that we're in session. So I'm gonna provide just really quickly because there are a couple bills that have already either had actions taken or are scheduled for a hearing in the next couple of weeks. So Assembly Bill 179, which is sponsored by Assemblymember Backus, just reforms the privacy rights of nonprofits to make sure that state actors can't solicit data in an unrestricted way from our volunteers, our donors, our staff, our board members. That bill was heard on the 21st of February. If you want to learn more, if you look at the bill number, you can click and that'll lead you directly to the page on Nellis where you can find the bill text and you can watch the hearing as well for more information. So that was one. One bill that was introduced by Assemblywoman Mosca was AB 254. This would create a program at the state level. So maybe for folks that are familiar at the federal level, each member of Congress gets to solicit what's called community project funding proposals. So these are projects that are specific to the districts that they represent, that can fund nonprofits, that can fund public entities and infrastructure projects. The idea is to replicate that model at the state level. And so that was introduced late last month. And we expect that to also be scheduled for a hearing in the next couple of weeks. The other bill, also sponsored by Assemblymember Mosca, is Assembly Bill 226, which is number 5 on the spreadsheet. This is a bill that would reform the way that community benefits agreements are done with private companies coming into our state and hoping to invest in our workforce. This would reform the process in which those folks would enter into a community benefits plan. What those plans are just the ways and the funding commitments of how they're going to benefit our local communities. So whether that's investing in nonprofits, whether that's investing in local government projects, that's kind of what the community benefits plans typically look like. And so this bill would improve the process for which those would be required by companies coming to Nevada. That bill is scheduled to be heard on the 11th. So this coming Tuesday at 4 p.m. If you take a look at the bill and it resonates with your organization or your organization's mission and vision, we encourage you to submit public comment or at least watch the hearing this coming Tuesday. Other legislative updates, our bill, the advance and prompt payment for state grants, so making sure the state pays us on time and allows us to access some grant money up front. We received the first draft version, so we're in the process of refining the language. So we hopefully should have that introduced in the next couple of weeks. And that's the same for the sales and use tax reform bill that Nevada Grant Lab is working on. So really great things coming down the pipeline for the sector. We'll of course keep you up to date on all of these great developments, and if folks want to provide public comment or their perspective as a nonprofit. But I'm gonna stop to see if anybody has any questions before I move into Nonprofit Day. I don't see any in the chat. So again, bookmark it, highlight this document. Feel free to save a copy to your personal computer. This is where we'll share those updates. Want to just briefly talk about Nonprofit Day. So Nonprofit Day at the legislature is scheduled for the 19th of this month. We have well over 100 folks coming for our event. And unfortunately, our home base, room 3100 in the legislative building, can also only hold a little more than 100 people. And so we did have to close RSVPs. Of course, folks are canceling. So if you can confirm that you would attend, feel free to reach out to me. I have a small waiting list of folks who are able to, I can register on the back end, but do know that we did reach capacity limits. So it's great, but we do know and hope to continue to engage nonprofits, especially if folks down south who may or not be able to attend and make the trip up to Carson City. So do know we'll continue to engage, and even if you can't come from Nonprofit Day, we're still going to have some opportunities to engage in some of the programming and some of the materials that come out of that day. So feel free to, if you have any questions, if you're confirmed and attending, if you have any questions, feel free to email me directly. I've been sending communications out with folks that are registered for floor seating. We're gonna have some great panels that day. And we probably might have a community event during the lunch portion. So it should be a very, very packed day. We're very excited about it. So feel free to email me with any questions that you might have. But that is it for my state policy updates. A lot of good things are moving, a lot of synergy and bipartisanship as it relates to nonprofit specific issues. And so when we're talking about so many of the challenges that are happening at the federal level, I can also report back that at least at the state level, across the aisle, legislators are really, really open and excited to work with the sector to make sure that we can make processes more efficient or propose some new projects. And so looking forward to continue to update and engage this group, but hoped to either connect one-on-one, connect on Nonprofit Day, or beyond as we approach the midway point of session. But that is it for me.
And Henry, I think we have a good question here in the chat from Marcus.
Yes. So really, I think the three bills that stand out are bills that we've worked on extensively over the interim. So the Advance and Prompt Payment Bill, sponsored by Assemblyman Watts, again, as I briefly mentioned, is a two-pronged approach to reform the way that the state administers grants. So advance payment would allow for up to a quarter of state grants to be allocated and administered up front, so nonprofits can get to work quicker and meet community need quicker. The second prong is prompt payment. So making sure that within 30 days of receiving a proper invoice, we get that money paid back for services already rendered. And so really trying to reform the way that the state partners with nonprofits, and making sure that we can make that process a little more efficient. That's one. The second one is reforming the way the Department of Taxation approves the sales and use tax. Right now, if you're a 501c3 and you apply for the sales tax exemption, the department makes a determination and it's very, very difficult to appeal. As a 501c3 nonprofit, you've already been vetted by the IRS, so we're trying to make it a little more efficient to make sure that nonprofits who are a C3 and in good standing can access that sales and use taxes. We've heard stories of folks being denied, which adds up over the years, especially as you're buying goods or you're purchasing services, you still have to pay the sales tax. So that's two. And then, of course, I think Assemblymember Mosca's pair of two bills, so the one focused on the community project grant program and the community benefits program, I think impact the sector in terms of just strengthening the pipeline of state investment into nonprofits and also private sector investment to nonprofits. She's also the chair of the Nonprofit Caucus, and she's actually facilitated some of these calls in the past. And so I think she has a very keen ear to the sector. So want to make sure that we're sharing that information from the work that she's doing and leading, because she's also our voice and champion among other legislators in the Assembly. Well, if you have perfect, thank you. If you have any other questions about what's going on at the state legislature, again, this is a once in a 2-year process. And so we really want to make sure that everybody is involved in the ways that they can. Feel free to reach out to me directly. But otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next portion of our agenda, which is our open forum, which we have not done in a while. So this is a space where you all as nonprofits and community leaders can share updates and resources on ongoing projects or programs that you all are running that you would invite collaboration or just community engagement, or any other updates on the work that you're leading for your community. So I'm gonna pause. Folks are welcome to either just come off mute or raise their virtual hand. And you're welcome to have a minute or two to share about the work that you're doing. So I'm gonna pause and we can open the open forum. Carlos.
Thank you, Henry. Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carlos Ramirez. I work with the Office of Minority Health and Equity. We're a state agency. I just wanted to mention real quick that we are planning to co-host an event at your very own United Way of Southern Nevada headquarters on April 16. This day is the National Healthcare Decisions Day. This event is in collaboration with the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada and the Southern Nevada Legal Law Program. We're going to be focusing this event to assist individuals in completing essential documents, for example, advance directives, healthcare power of attorney, and other important legal documents that people don't know how to fill out and they need assistance. So this will be April 16 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at United Way of Southern Nevada. I also wanted to announce another event that we're co-hosting with Fountain of Hope on July 26 at Helen Cannon Middle School. This is our 4th annual back to school resource fair. We are still looking for vendors, specifically in the areas, if you are a provider and you can assist with dental exams, immunizations, sports physicals, vision exams, anything of that nature, please reach out to me so I can send you an invitation for that. That is all. I'm going to put my email on the chat, and thank you again, Henry.
Thank you so much, Carlos. I'm very excited about the legal clinic. And thank you so much for choosing us to host it downstairs. Kevin.
I'm not sure if I got my audio back on.
Yes.
Henry? Okay, hi.
Great.
Hi, my name is Kevin Nelson. I am the Sibling Program Manager for St. Jude's Ranch for Children. We are hosting our National Sibling Day Festival on Saturday, April 5th. It's our 9th annual Sibling Day Festival. And we are celebrating the special bond between brothers and sisters at this event. But partnering with us at the event are a number of organizations that are raising awareness of their causes. So if you're at all interested in being part of the 9th annual Sibling Day Festival, I would look forward to speaking with any of the organizations that partner with United Way. And I can put my contact information in the chat.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kevin. Jessica.
Thanks so much, Henry. I did want to share, I had put a link in earlier that I kind of ran across of a bunch of corporate grants, and I wanted to make sure that gets in the minutes. So just kind of calling that out to your attention, Henry. Also, I know folks are hearing about a lot of federal funds being tied up and might be thinking that's going to affect our BEAD program, which we don't think it will, because Nevada is one of 3 states that got approval before the administration changed. We were the last one. It came like late Thursday, early Friday before the administration change. And so we're doing that infrastructure work, and you can see the progress on the fiber dashboard. In case you want to check it out, we have a mapping portal that has all the information. You can keep an eye on it and see when fiber is getting built or the progress of the permits. If you want to know what's happening with all that wonderful infrastructure that's going to connect our state, that you can use that link as well.
Perfect. Found it. And we'll make sure to include it. Thank you so much. Any other updates from folks?
I finally was able to get this link that I mentioned for EFSP to work. I'm sending it now. It's actually quite easy to use. When you click on it, you put in your address and it automatically picks who your representatives are, and the letter is already drafted. So it's just literally a few clicks, and it allows you to share the important information on the EFSP funds. I also want to echo what Jessica said. I know that we're highlighting a lot on this call, the potential cuts, the risks, but there's a lot of good things that are pushing through, a lot of stories that we're hearing that are positive. So just want to encourage everyone to keep moving forward. I try not to be too hesitant to go after federal funds because I think that if we push for those things and we get those resources, then we can help more people. So it's a balance, obviously, depending on your business model, but definitely want to promote the positive things that are happening across the state as well as the federal funding that is coming through.
All right. Thank you so much, Tim. We appreciate it. And I'll make sure that link gets out as well. Maya, do you want to come off mute to introduce your organization?
Sure, I'd love to. Hi, everyone. My name is Maya Baudet, and I am the director for Preston Jovie Foundation. And I wanted to introduce you to Preston Jovie Foundation. We are a new foundation. We're entering our 2nd year. And what we do is we provide services for families who lost children 6 and under. And some of our core services are access to mental health services. We contract with mental health providers that provide families with mental health grief support as soon as they lose their child, and that's immediate after the loss, so they don't have to wait for insurance authorization or anything like that. We provide financial grants towards burial or cremation services, and that's paid directly to the funeral home, so the family don't have to worry about the financial burden, because most of the time, most families are not expecting a loss of their child. And this is for all families. We are for everyone. We're not like candle lighters who are specifically for cancer. We are not like others. We are for everyone. So any baby that was born in the preemie, NICU, any child that's 6 and under that died of another disease or drowning or anything, there's any cause. It doesn't matter if you had a specific disease or anything like that. We cover the urns coverage, like we pay for the urns, memorial keepsakes like memory bears, memorial blankets. We also cover, which is really important for mental health. When parents lose their child unexpectedly and they have other children, they don't have the time to grieve. So we provide babysitting services, childcare, so they could go and get that mental health support. We are new. We have a lot of services. We do appreciate any collaboration or any support. So if you have any other questions, just look us up. And thank you for allowing me to introduce ourselves.
Of course, thank you, Maya. And do you have a flyer or a one sheet that, or yeah, if you don't mind sending that, I'm gonna put
We
on
have
my
a brochure. We have a website that offers all our services on it. Family could contact us directly from there. We also went to hospitals and to their bereavement teams and gave them all of this, including a grief boxes that provide the moms as soon as they lose their baby. It's just nothing huge, but it's just a gesture, calming teas, books about grieving, a little trinket. If you're not religious, there are religious books or there are spiritual books, because not everybody's religious. So we provide that to hospitals to provide to families as soon as they lose. It's sad, but it's uncomfortable, and I'm sorry if I'm making anybody uncomfortable, but I could tell you one thing: we are the only one in Nevada that does this. Even the national level one, Footprints, does not have a chapter in Nevada. So we are the only one in Nevada. We appreciate your support.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maya. And I put my email in the chat, so if you wouldn't mind sending me those brochure
Definitely.
flyer,
Sure.
I can get that shared out too.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We have 5 minutes left of our call. Any other updates from the group? Any upcoming events or programs that folks want to highlight?
Henry, can you share a little bit about the language access program, please? I shared it in the chat.
Yes. So for folks who don't know, we continue to have funding for translation and interpretation services available through congressional funding from 2 years ago that was awarded to us from Congresswoman Dina Titus. And so if you have any needs as you're working with on the front side with clients or community members, if you need live interpretation, we have over the phone interpretation that's available for nonprofits or local governments. And then alternatively, if you need any sort of document translated, so this can be brochures, flyers, this can also be internal documents. We're able to do that. We have 100+ languages that we're able to translate through our vendor. And so please take advantage of the service. Jenna, did you put the link in the chat for, yes. So the UWSN/language access request assistance, you're able to upload documents directly there, or take note of the phone number to call for interpretive services. But it would be really, really helpful for us as we continue to invest in language access for folks to take advantage of this really great opportunity, and it's at no cost. So we're happy to do this service free of charge.
Paul here. Henry?
Yes, go for it, Paul.
I'm sorry here. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to first of all congratulate the United Way of Southern Nevada, been a great partnership with the Nevada 211, because I wish more agencies that gave out grant money did like you all did, and that's the kudos is that you require agencies that you give grant money to be a part of Nevada 211 and get a receipt so that, and I've been working well with Tamika to make sure that if agencies aren't qualified, we'll help them get them on board and make sure they are, because we want to give out grant money to agencies that will provide services. And unfortunately, I will tell you this, we do have agencies that get the grant money, they qualify, we give them a receipt, they qualify being in the database, but they unfortunately within a year's time, we lose some because they just don't manage your money well. But otherwise than that, you're doing a great job, and your efforts help us bring on more agencies that do that. Also, next Wednesday, if a lot of you may or may not know, they have the U.S. Vets stand down at the World Trade Center. It's an all-day event from 7 a.m. From 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So hope to see a lot of you agencies there, and so that we can help our veterans. There are generally about 500 or more veterans that come. And last year they had 200 and something agencies there. So I hope to see you all next week. And once again, thank you for all you do at United Way.
Thank you for joining us, Paul. We couldn't do it without you. All right, we have one more update. Anyone else have any other updates? If not, my email's in the chat, so you're always welcome to send things to me directly to include it in the post-call email. Anybody else have a quick last-minute update they want to share? All right. Well,
Hello, Henry.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was trying to take myself off of mute.
Of course. Go for it.
Hi, yes, this is Sharice Brown from Nevada Care Connection at JFSA. And I just wanted to real quick just to kind of highlight that our agency is providing the public with assistance with finding resources and services here at our resource center. So if there's anyone or any clients that you all may have that might need additional access to services or even need help navigating those services, our resource center is here to provide that support. And additionally, our agency does have some funding for certain support. So if there's any questions you may have, I will put my information in the chat. And again, we're here to support our community, more specifically our seniors and our disabled community, but we do service anyone that does reach out to the Resource Center. So please spread the word for folks that are in need. We're here to provide that support.
You go to the chat. I need a screenshot of her contact info.
All right. All right, with that, I will go ahead and close our March meeting. Thank you all so much. There's so many folks on this call that I know I will see throughout the month. So looking forward to just reconnecting, continuing the conversations, specifically about our state policy work, but also on all things happening across the sector. So thank you all so much for joining. Please stay in touch. But if we don't see you before the next call, we will see you next April. on the first Thursday of the month.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you, everyone.